Hi, I'm Chris Plumb, head coach and CEO of Carmel Swim Club, and this is Off the Deck Podcast. Off the Deck Podcast champions Carmel Swim Club and the Carmel Swim Academy. We're extremely excited as we are building our new pool, and we know that swim lessons make a huge difference in the community. You can help us out by supporting the Carmel Swim Academy at www.carmelswimacademy.org. And we're really excited to get this pool running. We want and we need all the help that we can get. So we know that swim lessons is the gateway to swimming and to learning just being water safe for the rest of your life. And it's just so incredibly important. So I'm very excited today as we get on with the show to have our special guest, Vern Gambetta. Vern is the founder of Gain Systems and the Gain Network. And he has been an incredible mentor for me. He's been a track coach, a swim coach, baseball, soccer, World Cup. There's probably not a sport he doesn't know about. He's done cricket. He's just the godfather of athletic development. He's written several books, and I'm so happy to have Vern on today's show. So, Vern, welcome to the Off the Deck podcast.
Well, thanks, Chris. It's wonderful to be on. Really an exciting time right now. I mean, it's just, to see a lot of all your guys and gals' hard work come to fruition and see how the pieces come together. I was thinking last night as I was falling asleep about when I first worked with you guys and you had a bunch of kids go to Olympic trials, and in your eyes, they didn't swim very well, but in thinking about, well, what do you have to do to reset to achieve at that level, right? And it takes time, and it's a learning experience. We all think we know what it's about, but when you get on that big stage, a lot of different things happen, and your kids were ready, and a lot of the other kids of the coaches we know are ready. So it's very exciting, very exciting.
Yeah. Well, look, we can start there because if you recognize that my voice is a little different today, it's because doing this podcast from Omaha at the trials, and it's been an amazing few days so far. Carmel has two Olympians, Drew Kibler and Jake Mitchell, and just amazing performances. But I think on even a more global scale than that, we're seeing the fruition of Gain swimming just coming to light here at this meet, with the number of Olympians already, the number of final swims that have happened from Gain swim teams. And I think, Vern, you got to take so much credit for that. But let's kind of go back in time. You talked about that first trials. You came to Carmel in 2009, started helping us. Yeah. There really wasn't a plan for this, right? And, we were able to talk to you and bring you in. And so, what was that like for you when you first started with Carmel?
Well, it was really, honestly, it was the first club team that I got to work with on a comprehensive basis. Before, going back many, many years, it was sort of ad hoc stuff with Jack Simon when he had Joe Udipole and I can't remember the two youngest medalists in Barcelona. I'd just done a little bit of stuff with their coaches, just on different things like that, and then we were able. I've been involved and around swimming for. Been coaching 53 years, probably 51 years, starting with Jack Simon back in Santa Barbara in 1971, 72. And, where this all came together in a comprehensive systematic approach was with Jim Richardson at University of Michigan. I know you had contacted him beforehand, and some of it was a problem. It was like, well, it was more of a problem solving. Like, we've got a lot of shoulder and back problems. We have to do something different. And he really bought in. And you guys were the first club team to take and ask me and said, you want to take an 8 to 18 approach. So a lot of the kids that you have right now that are swimming in finals have been in the program for 10 years, just like Emma Wyatt and the Sharks kids. This didn't just happen overnight. So, that really appealed to me because I guess you hit me at the right point in my career. and it's actually even more like that now. I don't want to. I don't want any of these, ships passing in the night kind of thing. I want to work on a deep commitment, and we did. I came in 3 or 4 times that year, and we kept coming back. And the best part of it was, and the best part of it is, it's not about dryland. It's about integration and developing because we worked hard on fitting things together. And part of, I think, I'm certainly not trying to take any credit for this, but as you know, my passion too is improving coaching. So it's how it was coached and teaching people how all these pieces fit together. And it's not easy. I mean, it takes, you say this all the time, it takes an incredible commitment. And there's some times when you really doubt, you do and I do, kind of like, do they really need to be this sore? But we know how to make it work now, so. Okay.
Yeah. So you started with Carmel, and I would say you first thoroughly confused us on what to do with dryland. But slowly over time, we were able to develop this program, and now we're able to, implement it across, like you said, systematic across so many programs across the country, and we're seeing success. So when you kind of look across the broader landscape of youth and movement, what are some of the themes that you're seeing today?
Well, the biggest thing is, as you mentioned at the start, I mean, the kids need to learn how to swim, but part of before they even learn how to swim as part of it. And I'm here in California. That's why I'm out in the sun with my 9-month-old granddaughter now, and just watching this yesterday and this morning, watching her explore. We need to expose the kids in preschool and that, not to formal things, but more movement. Because as you know, most of what we do in the 8 to 11 to 12 range with the dryland program, with the GAIN program, is teach better movement skills. And I know this last 18 months or so, and I'm really honing in on the Sharks because I'm there and didn't travel, some of it before the pandemic and some of it before the pandemic. We just, like 2 days a week, even with the national team group, are devoted to just general athleticism, making shapes, tumbling, things like that. So that's an all-pervading theme, Chris. And I think the second thing, and this is probably the biggest lesson that I've really had come home to roost for me in the last 3 or 4 years, is, look, dryland does not make you a better swimmer, but what you can do on dryland is you can get so much fitter, so much faster, because we're terrestrial human beings. And the other thing is, it improves your trainability. So when you get in the water, you don't have to do more yardage, you get more out of what you do. And thirdly, I think the all-pervading theme and I don't want to jinx us, but we don't have shoulder problems and groin problems and low back and knee problems because of the systematic approach. And particularly when you bring kids, from the 8 to 18 approach. So that's what you see with the teams that have really made the commitment, to integrate all of this. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, when we look at the 8-year-old who's walking in our door today, are they moving well? Are they not moving well? What do you see? What do you see? And what do you think we need to do with them, as a society and as a country to improve our movement there?
Get them away from a computer, get them moving, get them walking, getting running. We need to have daily physical education that's physical and educational in terms of movement. We just need to get them moving, in any way, shape, or form. Participate in as many, explore and sample as many sports as you can, even though you might, the kids that isn't true either. I mean, the kids that end up making it, we joke that Emma couldn't catch a med ball when we started. She definitely wasn't going to be a ball game player or something like that. But do things that challenge them. Gymnastics. Oh my God, that if you want your athletes, your son or daughter, to be a good swimmer, gymnastics and dance because of rhythm and tempo, because everything you do in the pool is rhythm and tempo, and everything we do in our dryland system is rhythm and tempo. And then gymnastics, because you learn a lot of shapes. You've got to be long, you got to be small, you got to be tall. So just as rich and it's interesting. In Finland, having done a bit of work there, they have mandatory daily physical education outside. Okay, and we have people in the Midwest and northern U.S. say, "Oh, they can't go outside; it's too cold." Well, go to Finland in January. 6 hours, and they bundle up and they go outside and they play, and they just play. And it's for some reason, I know we all know what the reasons are, and I don't want to sound like like an old man from the good old days, because there was some things that weren't good about that too. But we just have to all become more aware of that. And when the kids come home from school, if you got 6, 7, 8-year-olds and you have a backyard and there's snow out in the backyard, lock the door and make them go outside and play for half an hour, and dress them appropriately. So,
yeah, go play, go explore. Yeah. I think that's great advice. And just watching kids, I think what you said too about Emma Wyatt, who's currently on the Olympic team in the 400 IM from the Sarasota Sharks, who you've coached every day, or helped coach, not every day, but you've been around there. So even with her, you started maybe working with her a little bit later, but how did she take the dry land that you were doing and become a better athlete? And how did that make her a better swimmer?
It's an interesting story, because even though I live in Sarasota, because I travel so much, I probably spent more time with Singapore swimming than I did Sarasota swimming for 2 years, because I'd be off with different teams and different sports, as you said, rugby and cricket and things like that. So I remember Emma as an 8th grader, really shy kid, skinny, small, very reluctant. She to push herself, on that. And then when she won nationals in 2019, one of the first things that, and Brent had already contacted me and said, if you can, we'd like to have you. And I said, I definitely want to. I'm going to cut back on traveling. But he said, I think we've got a really good project for you. He's got a pretty good eye. And he said, if she can improve, if we can upgrade her dry land, and she had a niggling shoulder problem. And so you're right. I mean, 5 or 6 days a week, I was with her, Brent was with her. She would come early and we'd do this different PNF stuff and things like that. Now, and that doesn't mean she's arrived. I mean, she's still got a ways to go, which is really cool. And she knows that. But the last power endurance GH session that she did, Brent actually had all the trials kids and I had the rest of the team. And I looked over out of the corner of my eye and I looked at what she was using on the high pull, and I said something to her after. And I mean, it was like 20 pounds heavier than she'd ever done. And she achieved for like 3 sets the desired number of reps. And, when you do that, there are certain landmarks, as in the program. Then I was there one day and on a Sunday with her and Brent by ourselves, and I joked, I warmed up in the lane next to her. I said, I'm going to build your confidence. And I got out of the water and she swam a fly. And I love rhythm and tempo. And I turned to Brent and I said, this is beautiful. You could hear it. And that's when I think things come together, so the convergence. But we were preaching rhythm and tempo on dryland too, and how to be long and all of that, just like you do. So yeah, it's been a fun experience, and I hope we keep it going.
Yeah. So from a coaching standpoint, you went from, I would say, you would come in and you'd help a group and help a program, and you would see kind of a transformation over 3 or 4 months, right? Because you would come in January and then come back and you would say, wow, these guys have changed. So, but what did you see now that you're involved in the program a little bit every day, and has that changed your thinking in terms of programming and things like that?
Yeah. Yes, it's changed my thinking in terms of programming, and that we don't have to be spectacular. We have to be consistent. I think sometimes when you come in on a periodic basis, even though I call it iology, you really see the difference. I mean, from my first visit to Singapore and 3 months later, I told the coaches down there, when I come back, these kids cannot look like this. They had spent a lot of time in the weight room. They could lift a lot of weight. They looked like bodybuilders, but they couldn't make the shapes they needed in the water. And so it's achieving consistency. And as you know, the hardest part of this is there's just, in life, there's just things that are mundane you have to do, and selling it. So that's one of the biggest things of being there. And I think I said this to you early on. Someday I wanted to be on pool deck, with the team, really deeply invested. And I did that in Singapore, but it was for 3 weeks at a time, literally from 5 a.m. till 7 p.m. And I'm not down with the Sharks every day. It's 3 to 5 days a week. But when you start to see, and then also what you can do is you can individualize. And you see the kids, we've had now 3 individual intakes, just since you were down there, from groups after the game meet before. And so really now being able to hone in on those young men and young women vis-a-vis the other kids, it's intimidating to come with your senior group or that Shark senior group when we're doing dumbbell complex, and that it really is. And so, showing them, even though they've done it, that now you've got to really, it's a deeper, stronger commitment, and in that. So
yeah. So kind of switching gears a little bit, you've coached all over the world. You've been involved with professional teams, World Cup teams, rugby teams, all over the world, all different levels. What are some of the commonalities you have seen from some of the best coaches across all these domains?
That's a great question, and it's maybe I've been really. It's been the last 6 months for me. It's been I've been trying to put all this together. Some of it in writing, some of it on podcasts, some of it on the game masterclass, and that. And they're lifelong. One thing sticks out right away is the great ones are lifelong learners. They're never satisfied with what they know, and they're always trying to get better. Secondly, they have to say a commitment beyond normal is, I don't know how to express it. You have to be a little whacked out to put in the hours that you put in, but all of them are working to try to find a balance, and some find it later, some find it younger in life. We're about to celebrate my 50th wedding anniversary, and my wife is a saint, because I promised I wouldn't do a podcast when we were out here, and then I said I have to do this. I owe it to Chris, and I owe it to the other coaches. And then and really highly emotionally intelligent, whatever that means. And I think it's, we coach people who swim and run and jump or play rugby or whatever. And I know those seem a little bit trite, but and at the end of the day, recognize that there's going to be some. They all recognize there's going to be wins and losses and ups and downs. And I told Brent Markey the other day, I said, told him a story about my last meet I knew it was my last meet. Nobody knew it was my last meet at Cal Berkeley, and we were against Stanford, and they were supposed to beat us by 60 points. But I knew we could beat them, and I knew we could beat them not by just our normal preparation. It was also 2-3 weeks before nationals. And I was walking down in the Cal campus. There's a creek that goes down the middle of the campus called Strawberry Creek. And I saw this little rock, and I picked it up on my way down to the track on Wednesday, and I put it in my pocket, and I said, "You got to be a rock. You can't, if we drop the baton on the first event, or we, whatever, you just got, and all week, you've got to," and I learned this from my mentor. I'll tell you another story. And so anytime I'd want to start getting geeked up and try to get them, because I didn't have to motivate them. Stanford Cal is special. and there were some other rivalries in there, and we beat them by 45 points. I had my 800-meter runner improve 5 seconds and beat a world-class runner. I had my heptathlete, who was a 110-foot javelin thrower, throw 130 feet on her first throw and went on to win nationals. And she goes running back down the runway and she yells, I'm peaking. And they were. So, it's so those kinds of things. And the memories are special. And I got together with some, and this is the last thing about really good coaches, I think. I can remember wins and losses, and some of them were heartbreaking, and some kids that I wish would have won that didn't, and some kids that I really didn't care whether they were playing in pro sports. But it's I got together with 4 kids that I coached my second year coaching. We won 2 national championships that year. They never spoke at all about that. It was about the meals we ate on the trips. It was about how much fun we had riding in my Volkswagen van, all of that. So you just got to remember that, they're still kids. I mean, even if some of them are 30 years old, they're still kids, and it's that overall experience that you give them. So, yeah. Yes. So it's a constant journey. And that's what I've seen. I mean, I've gotten together with Ron Adams several times now. I was with the assistant coach of the Golden State Warriors. We're close in age. We share a very similar background. His parents are Swiss. He went to Fresno State after I and coached there. And he said the same thing the other day. We were talking, that, you gotta learn, and you gotta be a teacher. That's the biggest difference. You guys, and that's something you put a big emphasis on your staff at Carmel, and I think that's what makes Webb better. That's what makes Brent better. You guys is you're teaching. You're teaching the sport of swimming, and then the good things will happen. We had Eddie Jones, one of the greatest coaches in the world, rugby coach for England, at game 2 years ago, sitting in the audience. Think about that, taking notes when I was talking or somebody else was talking. So that's a powerful message.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things that you help all of us in the Gain Network now is just thinking outside of our own sport.
Yes.
And being with you and going to the Gain Clinic, I distinctly remember sitting there and learning so much about how I think about the start and the way that they taught, and it was a track guy.
Yeah.
And then I got the whole, we not me, FTT.
Yeah.
It was actually we not me, no excuses, no messengers, no sympathy groups, from a football coach.
Right.
So I don't, maybe elaborate a little bit more on that cross kind of pollination with coaches and sport.
I'm glad you pointed that out. I mean, look, I started out, I didn't play, but I sat on the bench in football in college, and I had no desire to be around football ever again when I got done with that. It was a terrible experience and molded me as a person and as a coach about what I wanted to do later on. But one of the things, even when because I was into training, I was by far the fittest player. I wasn't very good, but I was fit. And so I kept saying, well, God, I'm learning all kinds of stuff. I trained with the track guys at Fresno State. And then when I went back to Santa Barbara during the summer, some of my friends were doing lifeguard competitions, and looked at what they did. And obviously I didn't surf, but I grew up around surfing, and then watched, and I go, when I first started teaching, I go, all the kids that are best in the softball throw are the surfers. Well, what's that tell you? The constant paddling motion. And so, we can learn so much team sports. I mean, just how they train, even how they train, how they teach, right? We've talked a lot about that. And go outside your sport. I mean, everybody needs to go, every swim coach needs to go find a good track coach, whether he's, a middle distance coach or a field event coach. I still feel that. And I think every good track coach needs to find a good swim coach. I think both ways, because how much we keep talking about that. And there's some trends in both sports happening right now that are pretty exciting. So, that's, and so where did I perfect, in a sense, the shoulder routine. As you know, we don't focus on the shoulder. Well, with $1 million players in baseball, they were doing all this stupid isolated shoulder stuff, and we got rid of it and do all the stuff we do. We never focused on the shoulder, focus on the kinetic chain, and find a good functional therapist, So you got to go really far afield. I mean, I'm going farther afield in other sports right now too. I mean, just because some of it's business world, some of it's in I don't understand AI, but I'm fascinated by it. But if it helps us to understand how we think better, we're going to be better coaches. So
yeah. So it kind of leads me to the next question: is where's sport going? Like, what direction are we headed?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I could be a lot of different domains, but I mean,
from a training standpoint,
and I think from a multitude of directions here. From a training standpoint, but also, we're seeing more, like at least in swimming, the more professionals are swimming. There's a professional swim league. You see these niches of things are happening more. So,
I don't have a crystal ball. Again, this is something that in the last maybe just a little more time with the coronavirus and doing. I just had different Zoom calls with different coaches and people around the world. Just say, we can't get together, let's get on. And I mean, it's so trite to say less is more. We are certainly, it's certainly been reinforced, and that really zoning in and meeting the demands of your event. It's not about specificity though, and it's again about preparing. So if in swimming it's dry land, using that dry land so I can get more out of every stroke in the pool, and you're seeing that. You're certainly seeing that in certain events in track. You also have to question, based on what happened with the pandemic and current results in the U.S. now in swimming and in Australia, and current results in track, is the amount of competition that we've had, was that really necessary? Okay, now I think you need that at roughly 14, 15. They need that reinforcement, but do you really need it? I mean, look at the kids that you've had now make the Olympic team. A couple of them swam in college. I think Emma had 5 meets for Olympic trials from September on, maybe 6. And
I think she was one a month.
It made me really nervous. Brent, and he'd say, it's okay, and I, because we talked a lot, we work out together, and I want reinforcement. And I think, if there was a song when I was a teenager, it's called Blame It on the Bossa Nova. Everybody wants to blame it on the coronavirus, but I think we have to look at some really great performances that are happening that are as a result of the adaptations that we had to make in terms of how we train. So I think there's some visions into the future there, and certainly the money part of it, Chris. I mean, let's be upfront. That's changed the game. I mean, and so you have. I've always said that swimming and track and field were more professional than professional sports, but now we have, because it wasn't just money that made it professional. It was about excellence. Now you have that monetary reward too, and it's going to be interesting to see how that changes. Now, the ISL did a really cool thing by having that bubble, and it's going to be interesting to follow the people that were at that and see how they did in regard, in how they do in regard to the Olympic lane, because that was really high level comp, wasn't it? So I don't know. There's a lot of things, and the other thing that we do is from a knowledge of the body, from knowledge of biomechanics, physiology, and I think particularly cognitive neuroscience, and that we need to bridge the gap now between what's happening in the research mode and what's happening in other fields. I've gotten to be, Ron Adams and I and my son-in-law, who works in computer, we've all become really big fans of Formula One. There was a thing on Netflix on that. And we say you can't multitask. Well, let me give you a little clue. You're going 160 miles an hour. You got one guy talking in your ear, and you have a steering wheel right in front of you that's giving you 5 other parameters, tire temperature and that. And you have to process that not hundredths of a second in 1,000. So there's something that we're able to do that we're not tapping into. that's what I look into. So it's very exciting, and I hope I'm around long enough to learn that and help, do that.
Well, we do too, Vern. We hope you're around for that. So we can finish today with just some rapid fire questions if you're ready.
Okay. Remember, when you ask me what time it is, I tell you how to build a watch, so they're probably not sure.
Well, I'll try to keep these simple for you, Vern. So if you could do a social run or kick with, who would you do it with? Anybody in history?
Oh, man. I almost have to categorize it. I think the present Pope, I'm really kind of enamored with him, would be one. There's so many people. I have huge influence on me in the coaching realm. It's not that many. Bill Bowerman, who's passed away. I would have liked. I got. He was a really, really interesting person. Barack Obama was really fascinating to me. Those would be three for sure.
Okay.
I'd like to be able to sit down with my mom and dad again now, bring them back and share some things with them and let them know what an influence some of the things that they told me and how they're all coming to fruition.
You're getting all sentimental now, Vern. Yeah. All right. What books are you reading right now?
Oh, God. Well, I'm reading one novel, spy novel, The Red Sparrow. I'm reading Richard Green. Oh, God, he's got three of Mastery, but the latest one, his book. I'm reading about 6 or 8 books right now. I've gotten onto this author. His name is Haslam, Haslam. Just passed away. He was a history professor and anthropology professor at Cal State Stanislaus, and he was an elementary school classmate of Merle Haggard, and he's written all this stuff on the Central Valley in California, which I didn't grow up in the Central Valley, but I went to school there, and I think I grew up there. The world, it was a whole different world, and so he wrote a terrific book on that, and he's also wrote the book I'm reading now is a book about the roots of music, which is where what we call country music really started in Bakersfield and the Central Valley. So
okay, yeah. So it leads me to my next question. What music would you music do you enjoy working out to the most?
Working out to?
Yeah.
Well, 60s rock.
60s rock.
And then working to, though, it's Dave Brubeck, Time Out album, Kind of Blue by Miles Davis, and the Clone Concert by can't remember. Yeah, so and I've worn them out. Thank God you don't use records anymore. Right? Worn them out.
All right, and then to bring it to the pool, would you like the pool too warm or too cold? I pretty much know the answer to this, but
I like it warm. It's just been warm. It's been too cold lately down there. I go, what are you guys doing?
Can't keep it too cold.
Yeah.
All right. Cold. Vern, anything else you want to share or what you're doing or tell the world?
Well, yeah, Chris. I assume there's a lot of coaches and hopefully some swimmers and that listen to this. Is just coaching is so special. You get. I've taught in the classroom. I'm a parent, but in those teachable moments that sometimes happen in the weirdest times, you never know how you can reach people and what they remember, harkening back to that conversation I had a few months ago with those 3 kids. So I think we need to recognize how special it is and how what an influence we do have, and just be a rock, enjoy it, enjoy the good times and the bad, because they'll even out.
All right, Vern, I appreciate it. Thanks for being on. Have an awesome day. Yep.
Thank you.